Hello and welcome to Petrol Apes. Today we are going to talk about the best-selling roadster worldwide. Today we are going to talk about the Mazda MX5 ND. The concept is a small, sporty, affordable roadster car. What Mazda did here is explicitly creating a model which is not aiming for comfort and autonomous driving, etc. It's about driving and the driving experience. The model that we can see here is a 2016 model, which I own myself. So in this review, I'm going to add some long-term experience about the car. Have fun! One of the most important aspects when driving sporty, I think, is the ergonomics in the driver's cab. Because with everything in here, you can have control over the vehicle. So at the first sight, everything is really clear. You don't have too many knobs and stuff that you can do here. It is really tidy and clean. So that's really good. The steering wheel is good. It is a bit thin. I could imagine that people with bigger hands could think that this is too small, but I think for way larger people than me, this car could in general be too tiny. Then, one thing which I think Mazda could have done better is the seating positioning in here. What they did to reduce the weight of this car to around 1000 kilograms is, besides other things, that they merged the different parameters in which you can adjust the seat. They merged them into one axis. So if I go back, the seat lowers automatically. If I go forth, the seat goes up. The problem with this is that tiny people, which have to go to the front, won't be able to sit a bit lower. And on the other side, big people have to go lowest on the ground, which is possible in this car, because there is no individual option for each axis. So if you want to buy this car, definitely you have to sit in here and you have to drive the car and you have to test it, because I think this is really an important thing, and which is not easy at this car. So with my size, it worked out well, but it took some time for me to find the perfect position, which should be about here. And yeah, so in general, I like the philosophy of Mazda, what they are doing with this car, so general weight saving and stuff. But I don't know if the seat adjustment, weight reduction should have been so aggressive. Yeah, but that's how it is, and like I said, drive it and test it out. So now I will try driving a bit and explaining my experiences with this car. Let's start with driving experience, suspension and stuff like that. This car is equipped with the Sportline package, which includes the Bilstein suspension, which includes a strut brace at the front and a limited slip differential. So especially the last thing was really important to me, so I took the Sportline package. The steering is super precise, it has a quite good feedback, it is very lightweight, and probably that's a more annoying thing about the steering in this car, because yeah, I think it really is too light, especially compared to cars like the GD86, which have a heavier and, for me, better feeling steering. But in general, the steering on this car is not bad. It is indeed quite good. What you can achieve with this car is going really fast through corners without having any problems, because the car is so lightweight. What is really rare on modern cars is that they are lightweight. And Mazda created a car which was more lightweight than the previous model. And that's really something which I have respect for, because that's the way to go, I think. The low weight of about 1 ton makes this a really playful car which you can place and experience, and you can also find out about the limits of the car on the track, for example, without having to fight against huge masses. So you can easily catch the car if it starts drifting or something like that. The Sportsline package also comes with a limited slip differential. This is helpful in the winter because with rear-wheel drive it is always a bit tricky, and the limited slip definitely helps here, also in rainy conditions, etc. But regarding driving experience, it's also very cool because in fast corners where you really accelerate hard, etc., you really have a good grip and the power is brought down to the street instead of into spinning tires. So that's really a good thing. The limited slip differential also makes it possible to drift, but the power is a bit too low on this car to do this often and in every situation, etc. So you really have to place the car very well. Would be good if the road would be wet, etc. So yeah, but it can do it and it is a lot of fun. Yeah, but let's come to the topic engine, etc. The engine in this car is a 2-liter version. It's also available as a 1.5-liter version. The 1.5-liter version produces 131 horsepower and 150 newton meters of torque. So the power is delivered at about 7,000 rounds per minute. And in the bigger engine that is equipped in this car, we have about 160 horsepower and 200 newton meters of torque, and the maximum power is delivered at 6,500 RPM. So here we are directly at the point that I don't like about the engine. The engine is good. Deer is just walking over the street, cool. So the engine is good, but I would really love to rev it, because that's something that I connect with sportiness, etc. So I think the smaller engine is sportier to drive. But Mazda in 2018 now released the facelift, and what did they do? They raised the rev limiter, and that leads to the fact that the car now produces 20 horsepower more, something like that. So that's really a good evolution, I would say. What Mazda did really well is the connection between engine and transmission and differential. The transmission ratio and the differential ratio is really short and tight, but this leads to the fact that the torque that is brought to the rear wheels is higher. Sure, you have to shift more often, but shifting is really a pleasure in this car. It's really so much fun. And due to the low transmission ratio and thus the increased rear wheel torque, the car feels a lot quicker and accelerates really good. So if we stop here and we give it a quick shot, so it is a really manly acceleration for such a tiny car, I would say. It's really cool. And what's also cool is the programming of the engine in general, because 4-cylinder engines especially often feel, I don't know, slow, and as they wouldn't be able to breathe and stuff like that. And in this car, this is not the fact. In this car, another MX5 owner, in this car, it really feels like a well-tuned four-cylinder engine. So it revs really good. There are no holes in the curve of the power delivery, and the revs are so lightweight. So if I play with the gas a bit, the RPMs drop very fast, which is really useful for heel and toe shifting. So the RPMs don't stay at 1 RPM for a few seconds or something. It really goes down immediately, which is what I love about a sporty car. Now let's speak about another promise that the Miata brings into the game. It's the topic everyday driving. And I think this MX5 does a really, really, really good job in everyday driving. But with a big if. The if is if you don't need to transport a lot and not a lot of people, because this car is so tiny. It has such a tiny trunk. It just has one more seat, etc. So this is something that you really need to be aware of. You can arrange in everyday driving. I do that, but it is hard. So you can go on longer vacations, for example, but you really have to think about how to set up your luggage and if you take this or that, etc. So this could be something that you need to consider when you want to buy the car as your primary car, because not many things fit in here. So I now got the problem that I bought a dog, and now I can decide if the dog comes with me or my girlfriend. So then usually we have to use her car. But in general, so just from the driving, from the noise level, etc., it's really everyday comfortable, I would say. And what really makes this also a good everyday car is the low cost. So buying this car is not super cheap, but it is also not super expensive. But maintaining or driving the car also doesn't produce so much cost. So in average, I drive this car about 7 to 8 liters, depending if I go much in the city, etc. But that's around the range. If I go on faster country road driving, it's about 9 liters, and on the track day I had about 10 to 11 liters on average. So I think these are really good numbers, and I could even achieve below 6 liters on the Autobahn, so which was also quite impressive for a naturally aspirated engine. So this is one thing, so low fuel consumption, etc. But the low cost doesn't stop here, because since the car is so lightweight, it doesn't need big brakes, it doesn't need big bearings, it doesn't need big tires, etc. So these are all parts where if you need to replace them, you just replace them with normal parts, I would say, that are used on normal cars too, and they don't wear out that fast as on a 2-ton sedan with 500 horsepower or something, because you don't have to fight with this weight so much. So that's really something very good. It's a really capable everyday sporty car, I would say, which is affordable. Before I start my conclusion, let's talk about the things that I don't like about this car, so which really are annoying me a bit during the whole time I own this car now. So the first thing is the automatic high beam control. So the promise is you leave this automatic thingy on, and as soon as a vehicle approaches you from the front, it detects the light and goes to low beam. And the goal is to maximize the time the high beam is up and you don't have to move your hand all the time. So just a comfort feature, which some manufacturers really are able to implement in a good way, I would say, but I would say Mazda really fucked up here, because in 90% of the cases, I would say, the car is 2 or 3 meters in front of you and the high beam is still up, and then it detects, oh well, there is a car incoming, I should activate the low beam. And in the meantime, the eyes of the person in the other car started bleeding already. The other thing that I don't like is the navigation system. It really has some unexpected shutdowns occasionally. So I use the GPS and suddenly the screen is black, and after a few minutes it comes back. It's not a huge problem, but especially when you are in a city where you have never been before, it is really annoying, because then you are lost for some minutes. And the third thing is just a tiny thing. I was on a drift training with this car, and what I do when I'm drifting is I really tighten my knees at these plastic parts here, and my knees afterwards were a bit blue, and that didn't happen in my old car, the GT86, because it had upholstered materials, especially at these points, because they knew people do stuff like that. But I think the MX5 isn't targeted so much as a drift car as the GT86 was. But the good point is that the list ends now, because there's not much more other than the stuff that I said before, the low capacity of luggage, etc., but that's another topic. So now let's come to the conclusion. I really think that Mazda created a very, very good car and created a very good successor, because the NC model before, I really didn't like it because it got a bit heavy, it wasn't that fast, and I also think it didn't look that good, etc. And with the ND, they really created something very, very good, and they achieved the lower weight, etc. So everything goes in the right direction. And even now with the evolution of the 2018 model, which now has the higher ref limiter and thus the higher power delivery, I think they are really going into the right direction. There are two things that you should consider when buying this car. First thing, seating position, and basically seating position. If you want to get this car, don't buy it blindly. Really have a seat in the car, drive the car, and test out if it works well for you. If not, don't buy this car, because it is nothing that you can really change. It will annoy you every day. The second thing that you should consider is if the space in this car is enough for you, because it's a tiny car, not much fits in here. It's just one more seat for one more person, and it has a tiny trunk, etc. So really think about if this is okay for you in everyday driving. If so, definitely give it a go. Maybe regarding luggage, etc., one more important point that you should be aware of. If you now think, I don't want to use this car as an everyday car, I want to use this car as an entry-level track day training car, whatever, be aware of the fact, if you approach the track with the car and not via a truck, that it doesn't even fit a pair of new wheels or tires to bring to the track day to change them eventually. So that's really annoying. So you have to find ways to do that. that's something, for example, that the GT86 can do much better because it has much more trunk space. Yeah, so I think I'm finished here. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I gave you some useful insights. If some information was missing, or if you want to know something about the MX5 ND, especially the 2016 model, just comment below and we'll answer you as fast as possible. And yeah, in general, if you enjoyed the video or if you are enjoying the channel, give us a like, give us a subscription. We would really appreciate that. So see you next time. Bye.